Hi there, this is Gist Nigeria. Coming up on the program. Depleting scarce resources. We explore overstaffing in Nigeria's public service and high cost of governance. Pension scam. Our investigative piece exposes corruption in chasing retirement benefits in Nigeria. And built to amaze. The mind-spinning upside-down house in northwest province of South Africa. Plus,
my name is NSIWC. Check me out.
A nuclear engineer and business executive supporting small businesses in Nigeria. Welcome to Gist Nigeria from the BBC and Channels TV, where we bring you stories making the rounds on social media. I'm Ajake Hulotse. Let's start with our top story. As of today, government remains the biggest employer of labor in Nigeria. From federal, state to local governments, thousands of Nigerians are employed by government to serve the tax-paying public. But a visit to government establishments may reveal just how unnecessarily overstaffed they are. In some cases, there are more people than furniture, and absenteeism appears to be a culture. The Director General of the Budget Office, Ben Akabweze, was recently quoted as saying the cost of governance for year 2020 was 75% of the total budget for the year. Could Nigeria have done more with less and improved service efficiency? Just Nigeria's Wale Fakile has been finding out.
Since the outbreak of coronavirus last year, Nigeria's economy has been on the brink. Battered by the oil price crash caused by the pandemic, the country sunk into its second recession in 5 years in November 2020. The impact of that economic contraction has been dire. Government revenues have dwindled, while inflation, unemployment, and food prices soared. Despite these bleak economic indices, expenditures on running the government have continued to balloon. This newspaper quotes the Director General of the Budget Office, Ben Akabweze, as saying the cost of governance has climbed from 3.61 trillion in 2015 to 7.9 trillion in 2020. Allocations towards salaries and running costs have accounted for more than 75% of the public budget every year since 2011, he adds. There are also reports that some state governments are facing cash crunches as workers' salaries swallow up revenue. What do all this mean for other critical sectors, and what toll will it take on the Nigerian economy?
What Ben Akabweze said, he referred to overheads and salaries. But what is more debilitating is that when you take overheads, salaries, and debt service, when you add the three together, it comes to about almost 140% of our total revenue. So what does this mean? You either cut down the cost or you increase the revenue. Well, right now we're facing a kind of contraction of revenues, but at the same time our costs are running away from us. And it's not, the reasons are not far-fetched. In 18.17% is our inflation rate. So even if I did nothing, my costs will increase by 18% year on year.
Issues surrounding the size of government and the effectiveness of its civil service have been around for a long time. At both federal and state levels, ghost workers are still being paid millions of naira. There are also reported concerns of duplication of functions, absenteeism, and overstaffing across board. In a bid to correct some of these anomalies, the federal government said earlier this month it will harmonize salaries of its employees to reduce the cost of governance. So, what exactly does this mean for the salary structure of public servants?
In some instances, the same peer in some of those parastatals earn about 20-30 times what an equivalent in the core ministry will earn. So what the minister is saying is that they wanted to bridge that gap. That will mean reducing the salaries of the guys in the parastatals, perhaps increasing the salaries of the guys in the core ministries.
In April, the Kaduna state government sacked 4,000 local government workers, saying the wage bill was stretching its finances. While some states are yet to implement, Kaduna had approved the new minimum wage in 2019, but it says this pushed up its wage burden.
It's not higher wages, it's appropriate wages, a living wage. Other climes are talking of living wage, not even minimum wage. But here we are even to implement the 30,000 minimum wage, whereas the political elites are collecting humongous salary. Yet, the 30,000 that is being given to a worker, they see it as a problem. Look at the salaries of all our political elites, from councillor to members of the State House Assembly, to members of the National Assembly, to governors. All of them earn the same salary. They don't look at ability to pay. Even when you don't have the ability to pay, they are earning the same salary structure as approved by Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Commission.
A governor that buys the Toyota Land Cruiser, when they buy those vehicles, do they tell the employer, the marketer, sell according to the ability of my state? You cannot have a National Assembly that takes so much every day, every week, every month, and on that floor of the National Assembly, somebody is questioning why a Nigerian worker should earn $60 for 30 days, which is less than about $2 a day.
This minimum wage is different from a CBA, collective bargaining agreement. This is a national law that says what you pay to the lowest paid employee, worker in your establishment. State governments are employers. Private sector people, USC, banks, and the rest of them all are private employers. All of them are in this basket. They are caught in the web of this law until repealed. So for today, any state government or employer that goes and be negotiating minimum wage, like some of them are doing with their unions, they are running foul of the law.
Organized labor was also swift to condemn and reject the reported plans by the FG to cut workers' salaries. Although authorities have clarified that salaries would not be slashed, questions around workers' efficiency and productivity abound.
If you see the research going on in Nigeria with the police force, and if you look at government agencies as a whole, there's not real any kind of efficiency within the service.
I can tell you that Nigerian workers are very productive. And that's why when they leave the shores of this country, in fact, they are among the best in the world. And therefore, it's about the structural defect in our system. It's not about the worker. It's about actually some defect in our system. And for worker to be productive, certainly you must provide him the necessary tools, equipment that is required for him to be very, very productive.
The vision and the conceptualization of the service does not enable civil service servants to be efficiently engaged and to be productive. Many of them have been employed just to fill spaces, just out of politics and so on. There's very little to do. The concept of service to humanity and service to the people is actually missing ab initio. That is something we need to find first and foremost.
The civil service is a branch of government usually grouped with the executive. It is peopled by men and women who constitute the permanent staff of government departments. The benefits are credible, and the cost of maintaining the public service is now one that calls for concern as government revenues continue to tank. So, what reforms should Nigeria adopt to cut its wage bill and introduce more efficiency to its public service?
There are thousands of state-owned enterprises that need to be sold off, concession away to the private sector. Once you do that, automatically, those institutions and those workers become non-government workers. Federal Airport Authority, if you concession the airports out to private, all those workers become. Sell the refineries, those workers become employees of the new owners.
If we recalibrated our service away from people pushing files in the secretariat and on the field, okay, take them to the field, to the local government, and so on, and recalibrate them to the needs of the country.
We need a structure that empowers civil servants to work for the people, by the people. In regards to even an interactive perspective, how much do public servants actually relate with the public? It's not about just being a public servant because that's what your title is. Are you a true representative of the public, being a servant to the public?
According to the International Monetary Fund, Nigeria's economy is projected to grow by 1.5% in 2021 and 2.9% in 2022, pointing to a weak recovery from recession. With the COVID-19 pandemic placed in the country at a critical juncture, governments at all levels must now seek alternative solutions to rein in the country's skyrocketing wage bill so as to fast-track the journey to economic stability. Wale Fakile, Gist Nigeria.